Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Scots Scheme with Macalester College head football coach Tony Jennison. The Scots Scheme is a program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Macalester coach questions about the Scots, football or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about life events that may be going on. In this episode, the coach shares with us team updates and injury updates that have gone on over the last few weeks. He talks with us a little bit about rules and how they affect defensive players, and we learn the new good, the bad, and the ugly that Coach Jennison has to share with us this time. So let's get right to the Scots Scheme. Well, let us welcome back Coach Jennison for our December show of the Scots Scheme. So, Coach, let's first of all just begin with team updates you might have for us.
Team updates, we started working out again this week. I actually had a team meeting. It's kind of how we always operate. Our team, after the season, we take a couple of weeks off through Thanksgiving, and then when we get back from Thanksgiving, we have a team meeting, get everybody on the same page again in terms of moving forward, and then get into the weight room with Coach Murray and his strength and conditioning staff. And we've been working out. Essentially, the plan is 3 days a week for the next two weeks, and then our young men have finals, so that will change. So we're basically about halfway through that, and then we'll take a little break for the holidays again, and then get back to work in January.
You had some people that were suffering some injuries late in the season. What's the status of those guys, if you're allowed to tell us?
They're all recovering well. I'm not. It's hard for me to remember which ones we're talking about. I remember the significant injuries like Brett Graham, who has a cast on his wrist now, and things are progressing fine. I think of Liam Peebles, who missed our last game with really an infection that put him in the hospital for 6 days. It was a really scary time, and it was a tough time because we didn't really know what the cause of his illness was, and he had to have emergency surgery, and he actually left school and went home to recover after being in the hospital for about a week, 6 days actually, and he's doing well now. So he's back at school, he's back in his classes, he lost a little weight, but he's feeling better, he's walking, and he looks great. And just to get him back on campus was really it was really nice to see him when he came back from Thanksgiving after having been gone for a little bit of time. It makes you realize, what's really important in all this, and certainly when you have a young man in the hospital for a week, when there's no reason why no doctors can tell you why, it's pretty concerning. So having him back, I know his teammates are ecstatic, and there were a lot of smiles and hugs and stuff like that when he came back. So it's great to have him back. Other than that, I can't remember the other injuries that I should at this point, so that's kind of out of my mind now, but they're all recovering, and we should be doing better. We've got a few guys that still see the training staff, but for the most part, we're in good shape.
So, Coach, why don't you give us an update on where the recruitment process is at right at the moment?
Right now in recruiting, we are in the early decision 1 period. Early decision is really a commitment that says I'm coming to Macalester. The most selective schools in America have early decision periods. Most schools have rolling admissions periods where you apply, and within a couple of weeks you get an acceptance or a denial letter. And so right now we're in the early decision period. We have 8 young men who've committed, and we're in the process of seeing which of those young men will be admitted to Macalester. We're certainly excited about the ones that have committed, and we have a bunch more visits coming up recently, or in the next today, tomorrow, and in the coming weeks with other young men who are pretty serious about Macalester too, we think. And then we have the early decision 2 period coming up, or deadline coming up soon, and then regular decision. So we're knee deep in it. We've actually got one coach in Colorado right now, one in Illinois, and we're heading out to Georgia next week, California, Milwaukee tomorrow as well. So we're heading out all over the country to try to find exceptional young men who are really serious about challenging themselves academically, but also passionate about football. So we feel it's off to a good start, but it's certainly how you finish and not how you start. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Is 8 the largest amount you've had in early decision before?
It's about consistent with what we've had the last couple of years. So I think I really don't recall, but I think I believe we were at 9 last year, and I think we were at 7 the year before. So it's pretty consistent. But prior to that, we only had maybe 1 or 2. So we've had a definite change in our recruiting the past couple of years, and I think it's shown on the field too.
You were talking about coaches were traveling to different areas to meet with recruits, and to what goes on in that process for them?
It's a lot of recruiting fairs right now. So there are different recruiting fairs going on around the country where our coaches go. They meet coaches from the local areas, again, Colorado, California, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Atlanta. And after that, we have more information about these prospects. And hopefully, while we're in those locations, we'll have an opportunity to meet with those prospects as well. There's also, sometimes we choose certain areas because there are other recruits that we've already visited, we've already been recruiting that are in those areas that we want to connect with, go see them in school, go to a basketball game, go visit them in their home. So we're also doing some of that while we're on these other trips also.
An Eclair High School running back out there on the agenda list there?
I'm sorry, say that again.
An Eclair High School running back out there somewhere?
We'll see. You like to think there's one for Chippewa Falls.
Chippewa Falls, yeah, that's what it was. I'm sorry, Chippewa Falls.
But not yet. So if someone out there is listening from Chippewa Falls, Coach Rakovich, please send us some information.
Heading to our fan questions this week, we begin with Derek from St. Paul, who'd like to know, do you find that with such a great group of quarterbacks in your freshman class this season, that recruiting a quarterback for next year's class gets less of a priority?
That's a really good question. Yes and no. Yes, in that I'm not as stressed about it because I know we have some pretty talented young quarterbacks within our program. But at the same time, my philosophy has always been that you want to bring in one quarterback per year, at least in each class. And we still do not have a quarterback that's committed. We do have a number of quarterbacks that have visited, and I think there are certain quarterbacks that are pretty serious about Macalester, but we're still working through that process. I do think that sometimes quarterbacks look at the depth charts and they see that we played a number of quarterbacks this year, and 4 of them are younger guys, and sometimes that means they're not as interested. But from our standpoint, we're still recruiting quarterbacks. We aren't looking to bring in many. Again, ideally, we're going to bring in 1, maybe 2 at the most. So it's certainly there are other positions of need that are much more of a priority, but doesn't mean we're not recruiting quarterbacks.
Lewis from St. Paul would like to know, the Fighting Scots suffered through a lot of injuries this last season. Do you think the return to good health plus the experience your freshmen and sophomores have received can make this a conference-winning team again?
I certainly hope so. I believe that what we went through this year with the injuries, with some of the setbacks, we learned a lot of lessons. Both our players and our coaches. I think that I learned things in this year, in my 8th year as head coach, that will help me down the road. And we've already made some adjustments to our program. I had mentioned our team meeting on Monday before. I thought it was a really positive step forward for our football program. We really talked about our values and our expectations and getting everyone on the same page with our football program, and I thought it was very positive. So I really believe that the tough season that we went through this year will help us in the future. I feel very good about where our football program's at. I've said this to a number of people, and I can't remember if it was to you or not, Rob, but I'm more invigorated for the 2016 season at this stage of the year than I ever have been as a coach before. Normally I come out of a season and I'm tired and I'm ready to take a little bit of break from football, but I've actually been reading football articles. I went to the Gopher practice last week. I actually went to their game as well, thanks to Coach Murray, and who's an alum from there. And I'm really excited for our season next year because I really believe that our team feels the same way as well, that yes, this season wasn't our best, and we had 4 wins and we weren't satisfied with that. And I really believe that moving forward, what we went through this year will motivate us and will help us moving forward. So I really believe our coaching staff and our players are going to be very inspired for the 2016 season.
Looking at the Division III playoffs, David from St. Paul would like to know, Coach Caruso used to be a coach here at Macalester. Yes. Do you see him coaching a national championship team this year? And
I worked with Coach Caruso. He's the one that hired me here at Macalester, and he's a great football coach, a great football mind. I learned a lot from Coach Caruso. We definitely have different styles. I don't think anyone would deny that, but I think that's why we worked well together. And we certainly, as I said, learned a lot from him. Personally, I would like to see that, just because I think it would be good for this area of the country to see a national championship come through Minnesota. It gets pretty tough in those when you get into the late rounds, and I know that from when I was a player, because I played in the national championship game and played in the national playoffs. So there'll be some pretty tough teams that they're going to have to go through here. I mean, all through the playoffs, but certainly these next couple of weeks. But he's proven that he's gotten to the program to a level where it can compete for a national championship. So the way I see it is, if you're at that level, you can certainly win one. You just need to get a few breaks on Saturday and make the right things happen. So they definitely have a shot. There's no question. And the way they've been playing this year, I haven't seen them at all, but from looking at the scores, it looks as though they've got a legitimate shot. The way they haven't, no one's come close to them this year. So it'll be interesting to follow. I'm certainly looking forward to that.
David from Mankato would like to know, do you find that high school coaches reach out to you because they feel that a player is a good fit at Macalester?
No, I wish they did. For whatever reason, I don't feel that high school coaches reach out to us. And maybe it's the history here. Maybe it's the fact, I oftentimes believe that people, especially from this area, don't really know a whole lot about Macalester College. So I think that's partly the issue as well. It certainly would make our job a little bit easier when we do have people reach out to us and say, why don't you look at this young man? Oftentimes what happens is honestly, they're not strong enough academically. This is an elite academic institution. It's one of the most selective academic institutions in America. It's a hard school to get admitted into, and you need to be basically at or very near the top of your class, and you need to have very strong test scores to get admitted to a school like Macalester. So it's hard to find young men who fit that bill. So I wish coaches would reach out to us more, but it's not their job. It's our job to go and find talented young men from across the country who are really serious about a high-level academic experience and a meaningful, rewarding small college football experience. So again, it's not the coach's job; it's our job. But certainly, if they're willing, they'll find a willing ear to listen. I know that.
Steve from Minneapolis would like to know from you. You played defensive back in college. Was there a favorite player that you like to watch or that you patterned your own play after?
Those days that's 20 years ago. It's hard for me to remember what I had for lunch last week. So I don't know that there was a certain player. I think a lot of my sports acumen, what I tried to do on the field, really came from the coaches that impacted my life. I don't think I ever, looked at professional athletes and tried to do certain things because they did it. It really came from the people that influenced me directly: my family, the coaches I played with, the teammates around me. So I wish I had a great answer for you in that regard, but really, there's nothing that's coming to my mind.
I don't know. I heard you were the Ronnie Lott of.
I wish. I have all my fingers though. Didn't he cut off a finger because he had an injury once?
Yeah,
wanted to play.
John from Champlin explains he's a freshman this year and wanted to be able to have a chance to play varsity next year in high school. What are some off-season things you would recommend that he could do to improve his skills?
Certainly, I think sitting down with his coaches and talking about his goals and aspirations, I think, would be important. I certainly get concerned anytime I see a freshman playing varsity level. Oftentimes, your body might not be as mature and it might not be ready for that. So I would talk to your coaches, John, to see if they feel you have the skills to do that. And hopefully they will give you an honest answer, and hopefully you can accept an honest answer from them. It might not be in your best interest to play varsity as a freshman. If you do have the ability and your body is a little more mature and it's ready, then I would encourage going to some football camps over the course of the summer to get different coaching from different coaches, and to again work hard in the weight room. Talk to your coaches about what they feel you can do within their schemes to be more successful. The other thing I would encourage is playing other sports. I really believe that cross-training is a very healthy thing. Picking up a basketball in the winter and doing different movements, I think can help someone with their overall athleticism. Plus it can help with just the competitive nature and your spatial awareness and whatnot. So I believe playing other sports can help as well. So I guess that would be my advice.
Hector from Plymouth explains, how come it is that the defensive players get called for face masking, but a running back can push on a defensive player's face mask and there is no call? I don't get that.
I don't get it either, but offense pays the bills. I think that's the real answer. Everybody wants to see offense, so the officials tend to hold their flags in their pockets when it happens on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know. I've noticed over the years each officiating crew seems to view rules a little bit differently, and there's inconsistencies within different crews, which is okay. It's just the way the game goes. So I don't have a good answer for that, other than again, people want to see offense, and I think the game is set up so that offense is going to prevail.
Do you think that the Vikings have improved enough to be able to hold off the Packers and take the NFC North?
Who asked this question?
I know they didn't leave me their name. So.
If anybody knows me, they know that I've seen, I think, one Viking game all year now that the season has ended, and I actually took a nap during it last weekend. That's not true. That was whoever they played last week in the Falcons, and I did watch the Packer game because my wife's a Packer fan, so we thought it would be fun to do that in our house. But I really have no idea. I enjoy watching the Packers. I'm more of a Viking fan just growing up in Minnesota, but I enjoy watching the Packers because their defense has some unique similarities that remind me of our defense, and I sometimes get ideas watching them. But I don't know, until you can beat the team that has kind of been your nemesis and the team that's on top, I think it's pretty hard to say that you're ready to take over. And a couple weeks ago, they got it handed to them. The Vikings got their lunch handed to them from the Packers. So until they can actually beat the Packers, I don't think they're ready to lay that claim, even though I know they're in first place now. So we'll see. They'll have another shot. I believe they play again.
Last game of the season.
Game of the season. Okay, so that'll be their opportunity to prove it. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Our next question comes from Annie from St. Paul, who asks, if Santa was granting Christmas wishes for head coaches, what would you want to have Santa provide your team for next season?
Linemen, offense and defensive linemen, please. We just never have enough. And obviously graduating Zach Hauser this year is going to be a big loss. We have three senior offensive linemen that are leaving our program too. So it's something that we always struggle with here at Macalester for whatever reason. We just never have enough linemen. So please, Santa Claus, bring linemen to Macalester. We need it.
Our last part is our new segment we're adding in of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So since we're out of the season, the coach has a strategy he's going to give us for this to follow along for the rest of the program.
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this again, and I really struggled with this question last time, Rob, because I feel as though I'm an optimistic person, glass half full type of guy, and really the good, the bad, and the ugly is two negatives and one positive. So what I would like to do, with your permission, if it's all right, is use the bad as kind of a street bad, how do I say it?
A cool kind of thing.
A cool kind of thing, yeah, where the good, the bad is he's bad, meaning he's good, he's really cool type of thing, and the ugly. That'll give me two positives and one negative. Can we run that way?
Absolutely.
Good.
This is the Coach Jennison show.
That's right. Yeah, you shouldn't have told me that. I'm going to change everything around here. Better be careful. So, the good. What's going good around Macalester? Is that the question?
Or anything you want to talk about that's good?
Well, my life is Macalester football. So the good is that we've got a lot of recruits here these next couple of weekends, and we're very excited because we've got some talented athletes who are strong students that we feel are pretty passionate about football, and we have the opportunity to get to know them better as young men, as students, as athletes. So we're looking forward to that. So that's the good part.
The bad part?
The bad. Bad. That's a good thing again, isn't it? So what's bad around here? The bad thing is we got our field plowed off right now. So we wanted to have our recruits be able to see our field and for people to use it with the warming of the weather. So our field is plowed off right now, and I think that's pretty cool.
And what's the ugly part right now?
The ugly part right now. Ugly part is that 2016 season is so far away, as I told you. I want to get going with that thing. So we've got to wait, but there's a lot of work to be done before then, and you can be sure that we're going to be working hard for a successful 2016.
Well, thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
Appreciate your time, Rob.
We want to thank Coach Jennison for joining us on the Scots Scheme this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Macalester coach, please send them to us at Tony Jennison at minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's Tony Jennison at minorleaguesportsreport.com. Just as a reminder, we'll be recording the show the first Thursday of each month, so please have your questions to us on the Wednesday prior to that date. We want to thank you for joining us this week. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. And on behalf of Coach Jennison, we would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year on the Scots Scheme.